Millionaire encounters male beggar, a story of unexpected generosity. The city pulsed with life, like a beast with 1,000 restless eyes. Rain slammed down hard tonight, turning streets into slick mirrors that cracked under the pounding of hurried feet. In the middle of this chaotic storm, something utterly bizarre happened. Jamie, a kid known on his block as tough as nails, stumbled across a luxury suitcase, just tossed carelessly in a shadow-soaked alley. The leather gleamed sickly under flickering streetlights, its cold brass locks sealed tight, but something about it screamed out to Jamie. His heart hammered against his ribs like a warning drum. Jamie's hands hesitated, trembling just a little. He had seen plenty like this in his short 15 years. Luck never sticking, trouble lurking right around every corner. But this was different. This suitcase wasn't trash. It was a full-on treasure chest from some rich stranger's nightmare. Slowly, almost afraid he'd wake the dark. Beneath the bills, folders bulged with documents stamped secret in red ink, sharp like knives glinting in the dim light. The smell of leather mixed with rain, cold and raw. Jamie's throat tightened. The city's usual chaos faded into a sharp silence in his head. This was a jackpot no one on his block ever dreamed of. But just as his fingers brushed the money, his mind flickered to Lily, his little sister, who was lying weak at home, fighting for every breath she could steal. Their mom, tough as iron but gentle in her own way, had drilled one thing deep into Jamie's bones: honesty. No matter what, she said, you gotta keep your soul clean. That's the only way up. But how could Jamie turn his back on stacks of cash that could save Lily? His heart tore itself in two, pounding with fear and hope and raw burning need. Behind him, a shadow wavered, a tall figure pressed into the darkness, still as the night and watching. A ripple of dread skittered down Jamie's spine. Robert Ann. But if Robert was one threat, the figure lurking in the dark was another. A hustler with a grim grin and dangerous eyes stepped silently into the flickering light, lips twitching as if counting the seconds to snatch the prize away. Jamie stepped back, fists clenched, rain stinging his face. His world spiraled as the hustler lunged. Just when it seemed everything would spiral out of control, a sleek black car thundered into the alley. Robert Anderson himself slammed the door open, eyes sharp and cold, but not without a flicker of something else. Recognition? Relief? He waved the hustler off like a pesky fly. "You've got spirit, kid," Robert said quietly, handing Jamie a clean, old-fashioned envelope that smelled of new beginnings. "Come with me. There's a chance for you and your sister. Something better." And as the storm raged on, Jamie felt a strange pulse beneath the chaos, a twist of fate, tangled lives, and secrets locked tight with that mysterious suitcase. But what price? Whoa! Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reputed that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Jamie stood there, soaking in the moment, the weight of the envelope pressed into his palm like a lifeline. Robert Anderson's sharp gaze pierced through the rain, and for a fleeting second, Jamie felt a flicker of hope spark in his chest. But just as quickly as the hope ignited, it was snuffed out by a roar of thunder vibrating through tea. A few yards away, a figure broke from the shadows. It was the hustler. He had a woman by the arm, dragging her into the alley's darkness. Jamie's stomach dropped. "Stop!" Jamie shouted, adrenaline pushing him forward, fists at the ready. The hustler turned, eyes gleaming with wicked delight. "Just a little fun, kid," he sneered, shoving the woman against the damp wall. She looked terrified, her eyes wide and pleading, like trapped animal caught in a storm. Jamie's heart twisted in horror. "Let her go," he cried, rage boiling up. But the hustler's grin only widened. "Or what? You think you're a hero now?" He laughed, a sound sharp against the rain. Then came Robert's voice, low and dangerous. "I wouldn't make him mad if I were you." The hushed tone dripped with warning. The hustler merely scoffed, shoving the woman harder against the wall. No respect, no fear. In that instant, the alley erupted. A second car screeched to a halt, tires spitting rainwater. Jamie's blood ran cold. It was sleek and dark, the kind that belonged to the elite, not street hustlers. A door flung open, and a figure stepped out, tall, commanding, with eyes of ice. Jamie squinted through the sheets of rain. The man wore a suit that shimmered even in the storm's gloom. Then, abruptly, recognition washed over Jamie. It was Sam, Robert's older brother, a man rumored to be worse than a wolf in a suit. He was no ordinary businessman. Whispers spoke of underhanded deals and connections to the city's darkest shadows. Sam's gaze settled on the scene unfolding. "Get away from her," he roared, striding toward the hustler, whose bravado faltered for a fraction of a second. In a sickening twist, Robert stepped toward Sam, his voice eerily calm. "No, let this play out." Panic surged through Jamie. "What? No, we have to help her." But Robert just watched, calculating, like he was observing a game rather than a life. The hustler hesitated, but then shrugged. "You think this girl's worth saving?" His laughter echoed through the alley, drowning out Jamie's protests. Then, like a flipped switch, Sam's face twisted in a cruel smile. "She's worth far more than you know," he said, a glint of something sinister in his eyes. "Hand over the suitcase, kid, and I'll make sure she gets home safe." Jamie's breath hitched. "What do you know about that suitcase?" His voice trembled, a rush of fear and anger churning inside. "Everything, kid," Sam said, leaning in, "and you're holding a ticking time bomb." Suddenly, the woman's sobs echoed in the alley again, cracking Jamie's resolve. It wasn't just money at stake anymore. It was lives shifting like shadows in the rain. And just like that, the truth slammed into him. The suitcase wasn't a treasure. It was a trap. As thunder roared overhead, Jamie stood paralyzed between good and evil, uncertain of who to trust. The pulse of the city ground on, but all he felt was the weight of the secrets tightening around him, dark and tangled. Where was the hope now? Who truly held the power in this storm? In that moment, everything changed, and the air thickened with the question, who would be the first to pay the price? As thunder echoed, Jamie's heart raced faster than a runaway train. The storm hit harder, drenching everything in a curtain of rain that blurred the world around him. The hustler's laughter echoed cruelly, drowning out the woman's sobs. Jamie glimpsed the shadows shifting in the darkness, desperation and dread clashing like storm clouds overhead. "What are you doing?" Jamie shouted again, hands trembling with an inch of powerlessness. "Let her go!" The rain fell like a curtain, but in that moment, it felt like all eyes were turned to him. Robert's expression hardened, but Sam's smile turned twisted, revealing a cruel edge. Jamie was stuck between the chaos. A fragmented thought flashed through his mind. He had to do something, but what? "Silence is golden," Sam declared, stepping forward, a dark figure cutting through the storm. "You're holding the key to a bigger game, kid." The weight in Jamie's chest grew heavier. He stared at the suitcase, its contents now feeling like a curse instead of a prize. Then came the twist. A loud crash echoed behind them, breaking the standoff. A car door flung open wider than the storm. From the shadows emerged a familiar figure, Lily, soaked but standing defiantly at the shadow's edge. "Jamie, stop! Please, let her go!" His heart shattered at the sight of her. Surprise and fear danced across her face, and Jamie's stomach dropped. "Lily, you shouldn't be here!" But her eyes were on the hustler, fierce and unflinching. "That's my friend!" "What?" Panic flooded through him. Everything shifted, like the earth tilting underfoot. A sick feeling twisted in his gut as the truth hit him hard. Lily knew the woman. "Run!" he screamed, realizing the danger, but too late. Without warning, the hustler's grip on the woman slackened. He turned toward Lily, eyes darting with new interest. "Friend, huh? How sweet." The moment hung in the air thick with fear, as if the city itself held its breath. "Get away from her!" Jamie yelled, breaking free from his shock. A surge of energy surged through him, but just then, a sudden gunshot shattered the rain-soaked night. Everyone froze. The sound sliced through the chaos, sharp and brutal. A figure stumbled from the shadows, clutching their arm, eyes wide with shock. It took a moment for Jamie to realize. The figure was Sam, the suit now stained with blood. His commanding posture crumpled, and he fell to the ground. Suddenly, everything erupted. Robert let out a shout, lunging toward his brother. The hustler bolted, forgetting the hostage as the chaos unfurled like a raveling thread. "Lily, get back!" Jamie screamed, his heart pounding. But she stood firm, eyes wide with understanding, shock settling over her features. "I can help him." "Help who?" Jamie shouted. But the weight of the moment crashed down on him. Sam was hurt. But all of this felt wrong. The woman, now free, whispered with urgency, "I know too much. You don't understand what's at stake." The air throbbed with tension, secrets flickering in the rain-soaked darkness. In that instant, everything changed again. Jamie's head spun as he took a step back, trying to piece together who held power and whose loyalties lay where. Was Lily really a part of this? What did the woman mean by knowing too much? And Sam? It was all unraveling, threads tangled in the storm. Jamie felt the ground beneath him shift. All he knew was this: the truth was a trap. And it was all they could do not to fall. As Jamie stood there, the world around him felt like a chaotic whirlpool, his chest tightening under the weight of truth. Lily's eyes were wide, the shock of the moment crashing against her small frame. He saw the panic reflected in her face, and that only added fuel to the fire in his gut. "Jamie, we have to help her," Lily shouted, but he could barely hear her over the rush of rain and thunder. The woman stepped closer, her voice straining but urgent. "You don't understand. They'll kill us all if you don't give them what they want." Jamie's mind raced. Who were they really? The hustler? Sam? Everyone was tangled in a web of lies. "Lily, get back!" he yelled again, but she stood firm, eyes darting between him and the woman. Then came a low, sinister chuckle from the shadows. It was Sam, now crawling to his feet, rage mixing with pain on his face. "Always the hero, Jamie," he sneered, pushing himself up, blood seeping through his fingers. "But you have no idea what you're dealing with." "Shut up," Jamie shouted. He felt like a trapped animal, cornered with nowhere to go. The suitcase lay between them, temptation and danger wrapped together in leather and secrets. Suddenly, the night exploded. A blinding flash lit up the alley, followed by a deafening crash. Jamie's heart stopped. It felt like the world had fractured in an instant. Jamie blinked against the brightness, trying to make sense of the chaos. And then, silence. The storm paused, as if holding its breath. Sam lay still, eyes wide and unseeing. The woman gasped, hands clutched to her chest, staggering backward into the shadows. Lily stumbled as the wind picked up, the rain falling away like a curtain pulled back. "No, no," Jamie whispered, horrified. Sam's suit was now a dark stain in the rain, body sprawled awkwardly. The sharp scent of gunpowder hung in the air. Everything shifted in that moment. Truth unraveled beneath Jamie's feet, and then came a figure from the darkness, stepping into the dim streetlight. A familiar face, etched with surprise and delight. Jamie? Willie? It was Margaret, their mother, standing there in the pouring rain, looking like a ghost slashed across the canvas of night. "Mom?" Jamie's voice trembled. He stumbled back, confusion clawing at him. This wasn't right. "You shouldn't be here," he shouted, panic coursing through him. "She shouldn't be in this dark corner of the city, not now." But her eyes darted to the suitcase, to Sam's still body, to the chaos woven into the fabric of the night. "It's not what it looks like," she urged, stepping toward them. The urgency in her tone cut through Jamie's shock, awakening something deep within, a raw need to understand. "What do you mean?" he pressed, desperation bubbling over. "What are you doing here? He could have killed us." Margaret's gaze shifted, something flickering behind her eyes. "I had to find you." We don't have much time," she breathed, voice thick with dread. "Everything you know, the sickness, your sister, it's all connected. The suitcase, it's ours." "What?" Jamie gasped, heart racing. "What are you talking about?" The rain surged forward again, drowning the alley in a deluge of sound. But Margaret's words hung heavy and ominous, as if the storm were siding with her truth. "It's a trap, for the city, for us." And just as Jamie opened his mouth, a second thundering crack split the air. Another gunshot. The world went dark. In that moment, boundaries were broken. Friendships were shattered. Jamie's hopes crumbled at his feet beneath the revelation. The echoes of whispered secrets swirled like a tempest, and he was left standing in a storm of betrayal. What did it mean for them now? As water cascaded down, mixing with a chilling sense of foreboding, Jamie realized he had lost himself somewhere in the chaos, and suddenly, nothing felt safe anymore. The only thing clear amid the storm was that trust was a luxury he could no longer afford. Who was truly in control? And was there a way out of this nightmare before it swallowed them whole? As the gunshot rang out, Jamie felt the world tilt. Everything spun, thoughts crashing into one another like waves against a rocky shore. His heart raced, pounding in his ears, as he turned to where the noise had come from. The air vibrated with shock. Lily's eyes widened, tears mingling with rain. "No, Jamie!" she shrieked, the panic slicing through the chaos. But before he could respond, Margaret clutched his arm, desperation etched on her face. "We have to go," she urged, tugging him away, urgency driving her. "Now!" The woman twisted back toward the shadows, noises flickering like ghosts. Jamie felt a rage boiling within him, pushing him forward. He could barely think, only react. He yanked his arm free and took a step toward Sam, who lay like a broken doll, the rain washing over him. "Why would they shoot? This doesn't make sense," he shouted, anguish spilling from his heart like rainwater. He didn't want to believe it, didn't want to accept that they were all tangled in this dark game. But Margaret pulled him back again, her grip tight and desperate. "Listen, Jamie, please. The suitcase, it has secrets, but we can't uncover them here." In that moment, something shifted in the air. A dull thud echoed through the alley. Another figure emerging through the haze of rain. A tall man, face obscured by a hood. The air thickened with tension. "Let the kid go, Maggie," the figure said, voice like cold steel. "You've been off the grid too long." Jamie's breath caught. "Who are you?" "Someone you don't want to know." The hooded man stepped closer, the shadows dancing around him. Suddenly, a chill swept through Jamie, and not just from the cold. Something inside him stirred, a vague recognition clawing at his mind. "Oh, they always come for you, Maggie," the man continued. Thought you could hide forever? Not from them. Still gripping Jamie's wrist, Margaret spun to face him. You don't know what you're saying, she yelled. Tears streamed down her face. You don't understand what it means if you find out. But the hooded man only laughed, a dry, hollow sound that echoed against the damp walls. You've put them all in danger, the kid and the girl. They're pieces in a game you can't win. Jamie's heart sank as the truth settled over him like icy water. Mom, what game? What are you hiding? He demanded, frustration boiling. Why are you here? Suddenly, a scream pierced the air. The woman who had stood before them. Jamie turned just in time to see her vanish into the dark, a shadow swallowed whole. No, he shouted, fear gripping him. We can't just let her go. But the hooded man's attention was fixed on Margaret. You have a choice. Save yourself and your children, or risk it all for a lost cause. He took a step forward, the tension in the air snapping like a twig. Jamie's world shifted. Was this man a threat or a savior? Then it hit him. His mother, the suitcase, the city's secrets, they were all tied together in a way he could never have imagined. What do you know? He asked, his voice trembling. Everything fell silent. The rain slowed, the world holding its breath, waiting for the next tragic chapter. Margaret looked between the hooded man and Jamie, realization dawning in her eyes that broke the wall she had kept. I didn't want to bring you into this, she whispered, but it's time you knew the truth about your father. The revelation hung heavy in the air, a weight that pressed down on Jamie's chest. He could hardly breathe. What was she saying? Who was his father? Before he could ask, the hooded man lunged forward, collapsing between them, gasping. They're coming. You have to run. Everything exploded. Light flooded the alley as headlights cut through the rain. Shadows surged forth, and in that instant, the truth shattered like glass in his mind, leaving only jagged edges behind. What lay ahead? A tangled web of secrets and lies that felt tighter than before. And as the dark figures closed in, Jamie clasped his sister's hand, uncertain of where to go or whom to trust. But deep down, he knew nothing would ever be the same again. As headlights pierced through the rain-soaked darkness, Jamie's heart raced, pounding like a bass drum in his chest. The hooded man crumpled to the ground, urgency hanging thick in the air. The world felt like it was fraying at the seams, and Jamie could sense the danger closing in. Those weren't just shots, Margaret whispered, her grip tightening around Jamie's arm. We need to move. But he couldn't think straight. Who's that guy? What's happening? Panic twisted in his stomach as he scanned the shadows, trying to make sense of it all. Lily's small hand slipped into his, and that grounding touch sparked something fierce in him. Jamie, listen. We can't just stand here. Her voice echoed with a strength he didn't know she possessed. They started to back away, feet shuffling, the noise of the night swallowing their footsteps as they moved. But before they could find their escape, the streets erupted, a surge of figures pouring into the alley like a tide of chaos. Black coats soaked by the rain, faces hidden, all shadows moving as one. Run, Jamie yelled, feeling the stab of urgency shoot through him as they darted down the alley. But the figures were swift, closing in from all sides. The once familiar streets felt like a labyrinth of danger, twisting and turning, as if the city itself conspired against them. Suddenly, a low rumble of laughter cut through the air. It wasn't just any laughter. It was cold and felt like daggers, curling through the darkness and stabbing at the raw fear churning in Jamie's gut. Did you think you could escape? A voice emerged from the mass of figures, dripping with malice. Jamie's heart sank as recognition washed over him. It was Harlan, the name that chilled his bones, a mastermind twisted in deceit, a man linked to his mother's past, the very reason for their shattered lives. "What do you want?" Jamie shouted, trying to find his voice among the chaos. Harlan stepped into the light, and Jamie's breath hitched. His eyes gleamed like shards of ice, and there was a twisted smile on his lips that sent shivers racing down Jamie's spine. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm not the question here. You are." The air felt heavy, time stretching, moments cocooning around each word. "You think you're special, don't you? Just a kid with a suitcase you don't even understand?" Harlan laughed again, shoving the hooded man aside as if he were nothing. "What does the suitcase have to do with any of us?" Jamie demanded, frustration boiling over. But Harlan just chuckled. "Everything." He leaned closer, eyes full of dark amusement. "You see, that little cargo your mother has been hiding is more than a mere beacon. It's a key. Your key, Jamie. A ticket to take us all to the next level." Confusion tangled in Jamie's mind like splayed roots. "What are you talking about? What's in that suitcase?" "Haven't you figured it out?" Harlan's tone turned icy, slicing through the rain-soaked air. "There'll be no place for the weak. So either you choose to step up, or—" His voice trailed off, leaving a haunting echo behind. Suddenly, Lily's hand slipped from Jamie's. His stomach dropped as he turned to find her stepping forward. "Stop! You don't know what you're doing!" she yelled, her voice quivering. But it was too late. Harlan's gaze shifted, and in an instant, the world exploded with screams. A figure rushed from the shadows, and Jamie's heart dropped as he caught the glint of a blade. "No!" He lunged forward, but time slowed, everything stretching in that moment as he saw unmistakable clarity. The clash came suddenly, amid a cacophony of metal scraping against metal, a high-pitched scream slicing through the air. Harlan collapsed, surprise etched across his face. But it wasn't Jamie who had struck. It was Margaret. "Mom!" Jamie gasped, shock anchoring him to the spot. She stood there, panting, an expression he had never seen before crystallized in her features. "Mom?" he whispered, confusion clouding his mind. An unexpected twist that sent his thoughts spiraling. Everything felt wrong, the truth burning hot against his frozen heart. "Follow me," she shouted, her voice urgent, fierce. The air shimmered with unsaid words and secrets. The last loyal tie to his childhood, shattering into pieces as Jamie remained frozen, torn between the truth and the lie. What did this mean? And just like that, everything spiraled further. Who was his mother really? The haunting question hung, unresolved, a weight too heavy to bear as shadows loomed ever closer, ready to consume them all. "Mom!" Jamie exclaimed, shock rippling through him as he saw her standing there, soaked and trembling. Desperation flashed in her eyes, the urgency almost palpable. "Why did you—" "Not now, Jamie," Margaret interrupted, her voice sharp and filled with raw fear. "We need to get out of here." She turned to the hooded man on the ground, ignoring Sam's lifeless form, and urged them both to move. "This way, now." The shadows pressed in closer, cutting off the alley. Jamie grabbed Lily's hand, heart racing. The panic within him was a living thing, clawing to break free. "What the hell is going on?" he managed to shout over the roaring rain. There was no time for answers. With quick, frantic steps, they fled deeper into the alley, Margaret's grip never loosening. Jamie felt the pulse of the city around them, the uncertainty swirling fiercely. All he could think was they needed to escape. But just then, a flash of silver caught his eye. Jamie turned to see the woman from earlier, still trembling, but now slowly rising from the shadows again. She was a ghost, shadow, and rain. "Please, you have to listen to me," she pleaded, bending near, desperation tugging at her voice. "You don't know who you're dealing with, Harlan." But before she could finish, Jamie's world fractured again. A loud gunshot rang out, echoing like an unwanted thunderclap through the air. Time seemed to freeze. The bullet hit the wall next to the woman, sending shards of concrete flying. She gasped, fear flashing in her eyes. "Run!" she screamed, and desperation took over. Jamie didn't think. He yanked Lily with him, driving them forward. But when he turned back, the woman was gone, swallowed by the shadows. The alley felt like a nightmare, twisting around them like a dark maze. "Mom, we can't leave her," he shouted, panic boiling over again. "She's a distraction." Margaret cried back, urgency slicing through her voice. "We have to go, now!" Jamie's heart raced. "Distraction? Why is everyone talking in riddles? What's happening?" A roar from outside the alley startled them, the sound of engines revving. Alarms rang out, sirens wailing in the distance, closing in on them. Suddenly, Margaret paused, turning towards the sounds. "They're here," she whispered harshly. "Who?" Jamie felt fear scrape against his insides. Before she answered, the darkness behind them erupted. Harlan, pale and contorted with fury, stepped into the light. "You're not leaving with that suitcase," he bellowed, voice thick with rage. "It belongs to the syndicate, and you'll regret intruding." "What?" Jamie felt his stomach drop. "We all thought you were just a pawn in the game." Harlan laughed, a bitter sound that dripped with malice. "But you're so much more. The key to everything, didn't you see?" And in that fractured moment, the world split open. Jamie's mind reeled, running through every clue, every whispered word. Then, Margaret did the unthinkable. "You have to trust me," she gasped, falling to her knees by Sam's body. "He's your real father." The world stopped. Jamie's heart thundered in confusion. "What? No, that's not—" But Harlan's laughter cut him off, thick and razor-sharp. "Oh, sweet boy, the plot only thickens. Your mother has been playing both sides against each other. She should have never come back." The shock hit Jamie like a punch to the gut. All the pieces fell into place, sharp and cruel. "This can't be true," he shouted, but the words felt hollow. "Mom, I don't understand." "Time is up," Harlan sneered. "The syndicate wants what's theirs, and you've entangled yourself in a web you can't escape." Jamie looked at Lily, her eyes huge with fear, then back to Margaret, who knelt in sorrowful desperation. "What have you done?" he cried, betrayal sinking in like a dagger. "Mom, please," Lily whimpered, her voice trembling. The urgency snapped back. Harlan turned, signaling to the other figures pooling together at the alley's mouth, ready to swarm. "Run!" Jamie shouted, pulling Lily forward into the fog of chaos. Yet his heart remained heavy with shattered trust. The truth spread like a wildfire in his mind, and nothing felt secure. As they stumbled through the chaos, the rains washed over them like a coffin. Cold, disorienting, murky. He didn't know what lay ahead, but one truth was now etched in his bones. Deception ran deeper than he ever imagined. "Just hold on," he yelled, not sure about anything anymore, not even if escaping was a chance. The city echoed back, blurring darkness with the dying light, and the truth now tainted with lies. As they stumbled through the rain-soaked alley, Jamie's mind swirled with confusion and panic. The shadows danced around them, dark and full of impending danger, as Margaret pulled them deeper into the night. His heart raced, every beat a frantic call to escape. "We can't leave her," he shouted, frustration and fear lacing his voice. Margaret turned, her face drawn tight with urgency. "We have to think of our lives first. You don't know what Harlan is capable of. We cannot be here." But just as they reached the mouth of the alley, the air broke with a flurry of footsteps. Figures emerged from the rain, faces obscured, but intentions clear. Jamie's heart sank, a cold dread seeping in. These weren't just street thugs. They were organized, a well-oiled machine thrumming with violence. "Get back!" Margaret yelled. But it was too late. Jamie felt a surge of adrenaline. His instincts kicked in, and he grabbed Lily's hand tight, racing forward, but they were trapped. The alley closed in. "Harlan," "You coward!" Margaret screamed, eyes blazing with a mix of fear and rage as Harlan stepped forward, unyielding. "You think you can run?" He chuckled darkly, the sound echoing unnervingly. "You have something that belongs to us." "What are you talking about?" Jamie shouted, trying to catch his breath. But Harlan's grin widened, deranged excitement glinting in his eyes. "The suitcase. You hold the key, Jamie. You think it's just a suitcase? You have no idea what you're protecting." Jamie felt his stomach lurch. "What's in it?" "Enough power to change everything. Enough to control the syndicate. We won't let you ruin this for us." Harlan's voice dripped with malice. Suddenly, the hooded man staggered to his feet behind Harlan, blood still seeping from his wound. "We are the syndicate," he gasped, voice strained. "You don't even know what you're sitting upon, boy." Jamie's confusion spiraled. Power? The key? What were they talking about? A scream shattered the air, piercing through the tense standoff. A moment of chaos unfolded as shadows darted, and Jamie blinked at the frantic scene. The rain blurred everything, but there, just behind Harlan, was the woman from earlier, bloodied and gasping, caught in the grip of another figure emerging from the darkness. "Let her go!" Jamie shouted, fury igniting him as he took a step forward. But Harlan waved his hand dismissively. "You're too late, my friend." And just like that, the woman looked directly at Jamie. "It was never just a suitcase. It's a trap. It all leads back to your mother." Time froze as Jamie's heart pounded in disbelief. "What are you saying?" Before the woman could answer, the alley erupted in chaos. Harlan lunged forward, and in a gut-wrenching second, he revealed a gun, leveling it angrily at Margaret. "Your time protecting him is over." "No!" Jamie screamed, instinct slamming against his reason. Then, the unexpected happened. Margaret stepped forward, a steely determination in her eyes. "No!" she shouted, raising her own weapon hidden beneath her coat, shocking everyone into silence. "Mom?" Jamie's voice trembled. "You?" The world tilted violently. "You had a gun?" Lily questioned, eyes wide. "Why?" "I didn't want you to find out this way," Margaret choked, tears streaming down her face, her gun shaking slightly in her hand. Then came the twist, a powerful crack of thunder, followed by the unmistakable roar of gunfire. The sound splitting the night and their lives into fragments. A bullet found its mark, not in Margaret, but in the woman. She collapsed, crumpled against the wet pavement, eyes wide in shock. "No!" Jamie roared, the horror crashing down on him like the very storm above. Panic surged through him. Betrayal coiled its icy fingers around his heart. "You killed her!" he yelled, the accusation like acid on his tongue. "I had to. It was her or us," Margaret screamed, panic clawing at the edges of her sanity. But Jamie didn't hear her. Darkness pressed in around him, the truth unraveling. His mother, the secrets she held. Oh, it was all a tangled mess. His legs felt like they were made of lead. "What have you done?" In that moment, everything shifted. The gunfire, the secrets, the betrayal. Reality splintered, shattering all he thought he knew. Every ounce of love and trust felt hollow, leaving behind an empty ache. The alley rang with the echoes of uncertainty, and Jamie knew nothing would ever be the same. And as he looked at Lily, who was frozen in shock, he realized they were caught in a web that would consume them whole. Who was untrustworthy? Who were his true allies? As the fear wrapped around him tighter, he felt an undeniable pull toward a fate he could hardly comprehend. They were on the brink, faced with questions bigger than themselves. And Jamie stood, heart pounding, questioning everything, ready for whatever came next. Jamie stood frozen, the air thick with shock and despair around him. The chaos pulsed like a heartbeat, loud, frantic, and desperate. His world spun wildly, colors bleeding into each other, as the woman crumpled to the ground, her breath escaping in rapid, desperate gasps. "Why?" he whispered, tears pricking at his eyes. "Why, Mom?" The words ripped from his throat like a cry for help, a plea for understanding that never came. He looked at Lily, her face pale and terrified, the innocence in her eyes an ugly testament to the horror unfolding. From the corner of his eye, Harlan recoiled, surprise painting his features momentarily. Then, a switch flipped inside him. He laughed, cold and mocking, a sound that clawed at Jamie's insides. "You really think you can save anyone?" Harlan spat, annoyance dancing in his eyes. "It's too late for her. Too late for all of you." Margaret's gun wavered, the weight of it a burden that threatened to crush her. "Get back!" she screamed, voice high and desperate. "You don't understand what you're provoking." But Jamie couldn't throw the accusation back at her anymore. Fear wrapped around his heart like barbed wire. Amidst the chaos, another shot rang out. It was rapid, like a heartbeat, echoing through the chaos. A spray of light caught the rain. For a split second, everything slowed. Then, a second scream, but different, sharp and bone-chilling. It reverberated, each note rich with anguish, washing over them like a chilling tide. Jamie turned, eyes wide, as another figure staggered from the shadows. It was the hooded man, blood pouring from his side, face pale and haunted. He lunged forward, hands shaking. "You have to listen," he rasped, desperation coloring his voice. "She's not your mother. I tried to protect you." The world shuddered around Jamie, pausing for the briefest instant. What did he mean? But before answers could form, Margaret suddenly relaxed her grip on the gun, her eyes widening in horror. "Stay back!" she shouted, the tremor in her voice revealing a deep crack in her armor. "What are you talking about?" The man's gaze pierced through the rain. "She's the one behind it all. The syndicate. It was her design. Everything turned upside down." Jamie's mind reeled, confusion sparking like electric static. "What?" He looked back at Margaret, betrayal and pain ripping through him like claws. "Mom?" But Margaret's face had shifted, revealing a darkness that made his stomach drop. The stranglehold of trust frayed. "No." He shook his head, denial pouring from his lips like a lifeline. "I knew you'd find out," she finally said, voice barely above a whisper, the truth washing over her features. Lily clutched Jamie's arm, eyes filled with tears. You can't mean that, Mom." But Margaret just stood there, an echo of a hardened past lingering in her eyes. "I never wanted it to come to this. You were always a part of my plan. I thought I could save you too, but it spiraled out of control." Each word struck like a hammer, shattering Jamie's perception into jagged pieces. The weight of her deception was like a rock in his throat. "You lied to us." "I did it to protect you," she choked, tears merging with the rain. "The suitcase holds more than power. It's a way to change the game, reshape our lives. You have to understand." The realization crashed down over Jamie, drowning him in despair. He felt the world narrowing, the shadows closing in. Suddenly, the hooded man cried out, staggering amidst the chaos. "No, stop!" he screamed, his figure wavering. And just like that, a flash erupted, bright and blinding. An explosion shattered the air, throwing them back like rag dolls, the force knocking the breath from Jamie's lungs. Then, darkness swallowed everything. The air crackled with tension, and in the swirling chaos, everything flickered before his eyes. Faces lost in shadow, screams pulled back into the night. Pain coursed through Jamie as he realized in one agonizing moment the truth had been a trap all along. And as silence fell, leaving only the echo of what had been, Jamie lay amidst the wreckage. The world forever changed, questions echoing in the empty space around him. What would remain of the lives they once knew? Who would rise and who would fall? The storm passed like a nightmare fading into dawn. Jamie blinked against the thrum of rain, trying to grasp what had just happened. He lay on the cold ground, breath hitching in his throat. The echoes of gunfire faded into silence, replaced by the distant wail of sirens. Lily clutched his arm, eyes wide, reflecting a mix of fear and confusion. "Jamie, is Mom okay? What just happened?" Margaret struggled to her feet, her face as white as the moonlight filtering through the clouds. She gasped, her voice cracking, but the words wouldn't come. Harlan lay sprawled nearby, his laughter turned to nothing but ragged breaths. The hooded man, alive but barely, inched toward them. "This isn't over," he rasped, blood matting his shirt. "You don't even know who you're up against." The weight of his words hung thick in the air. Jamie felt his heart race with adrenaline. "What do you mean?" he shouted, pushing away panic swirling in his chest. "What's happening?" Lily looked at him, eyes pleading. "We need to go, Jamie." "Who was that woman?" Jamie asked, desperate for answers. Confusion turned to anguish as Margaret stood back, her eyes darting to Harlan, who was beginning to stir. "She was part of this mess," Margaret finally managed, her gaze unsteady. "There is too much at stake. We can't just stand still." Jamie felt crushed under the weight of betrayal. "You deceived us. For what? Control?" But there was a flicker of something in Margaret's eyes, a remnant of panic, maybe guilt. "I thought it would protect you," she exclaimed. "The suitcase, it was a sanctuary. It contained secrets they'd kill to possess." "Secrets?" he spat, frustration dripping from his voice. "You think secrets shield us from danger?" The silence fell again, heavy and oppressive. Jamie's shoulder brushed against Lily's, her warmth lending him strength he thought he'd lost. He opened his mouth to speak, but then the sound of sirens drew nearer, drowning out everything else. "Now, we have to move," Margaret urged, fear crackling in her tone. Just as they turned, Harlan unleashed a guttural growl, rising unsteadily. "You can't escape what's coming. The Syndicate will find you." The unity forged in that moment began to crumble as Jamie clenched his jaw. "We'll find our own way," he shouted defiantly. Footsteps erupted from the shadows, a horde spiraling toward them with sharp flashes of light. "Run!" he screamed, pulling Lily with him, making their way through the muddy alley. Margaret followed, leading the charge into the waiting storm. Rain pounded like a heartbeat, drenching them, but it also washed away the remnants of betrayal that trailed behind. With every step, Jamie felt a spark. Hope flickered within him. They would fight. They burst onto a street, breathless, hearts hammering. The city's pulse reverberated around them. Behind them, chaos spiraled. But ahead lay a glimmer of something undeniable, a chance for freedom. "Look!" Lily gasped, pointing toward a nearby park where streetlights flickered like stars through the mist. As they rushed towards safety, Jamie glanced back one last time. Harlan stood silhouetted against the darkness, rage written across his face, but this time it felt like a fading nightmare. "Mom, we have to go," Lily urged, yanking Jamie forward. And together they ran, hearts pounding in unison, the weight of their past slipping away as they entered the unknown. The storm had passed, but the world before them was still uncertain, filled with questions and uncharted paths. Who knows what lay ahead? All they had was each other, and that had to be enough. Now, before you close this chapter, I have something important to say. You must subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help others find us. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending, not just for us, but to connect as a community. And don't wait one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know how this ends. This is the moment to show your support.